Not a bad view from up here. We're just up here in the mountains in the early morning hours on Goldenridge Reserve, and I don't think we've seen this particular spot, and that kind of gets into at least the start of this video. I want to change it up a little bit. We've been trying to catch primarily things like gold cutthroat trout, gold brook trout. Every now and then we'll go after tiger muskie and northern pike, and thus far while we've caught some golds, we've not ended up stumbling into a diamond. So starting at this particular lake, which I don't think we fished at before, what I've seen in here just as I've kind of stood around are some panfish. So I want to see if we can maybe catch a decent crappie, maybe a bluegill. I'm not sure, there could be yellow perch in here. I find on the east side of the map, those are common species, and we're going to kind of go from there. I want to target something different today. Oh, got a little something out there. I really don't know what's in this pond other than the panfish that I saw. That is an interesting tension. This is 38-pound test. I wonder if there's another type of fish in here. Now, I started light. We have a size 9 hook. I always like to start with a lower size hook than maybe the recommended size for gold, because if we're not catching bronzes and silvers, odds are we're not going to catch a gold or a diamond out of there. What is this? Was that a brook trout? What the heck? I mean, we'll take that. Good to know they're in here. And that could definitely get interesting. So, if we were to try to target golds for really all the different species, yellow perch, bluegill, crappie, we'd be looking at a size 7 hook. That would be a little bit on the small end for a bigger brook trout. But this is a good spot just because of the mix of species. That size 7 hook that I mentioned could actually do us decently well, and we still have a bigger fish in the brook trout to catch some like silvers of and kind of break up the monotony. Got another fish in here. See what we got for tension this time. A little less. Maybe a panfish, especially since we were a little bit closer to the shore. We'll just bring this right in here. I can't believe I didn't know about this spot. Really interesting mix of fish too. I'd be curious to know if there are in fact yellow perch in here. Got this into 20 feet. Gotta be something different, I think. Or is that still a brook trout? It is a really tiny one. Somehow that's a silver at 1 pound? Well, why don't we try that then? I want to say the correct size for a decent one of them is 4, which we do have with us. Let's just see if we can get a hit from a decent one. Now, we can't use a bloodworm. A minnow probably works fine. So no luck so far. But we've got, it might be a perch down there. I can't tell what it is. But I went back to the smaller hook just so we could try to bring that in. And indeed, that is a yellow perch. Now, it's a little one. But if we use that larger hook, that could definitely work. I thought I saw like a rainbow trout in here, and I was off by 1 too. I looked it up. The size for diamond brook trout would be size 4. Typically, I like to go with the gold size, and a diamond will still hit that. So we've got a size 5 spoon, which would be a gold brook trout, and obviously a chance for diamonds. And if there was a rainbow in here, I would certainly think they would hit that. That's interesting. There's something coming flying over here, and it may be a decent brook trout. If it is, it almost has to be a gold. I'm curious. Is it just a small rainbow? I think that is what we have. There must be so few of them in here, because I feel like it would be every cast if it were just loaded with them. Really interesting blend of species here, and I've still not actually laid eyes on another panfish. It was, so when I joined this server, it was like the middle of the night, probably from the last server I had been in, and it fast forwarded to daytime, so it was dark when I saw it. Maybe it was actually a perch, but it looked like a panfish of some kind. Finally got another little hit on this thing. Curious to see, must be another trout of some kind. I almost had convinced myself rainbows weren't in here until that last catch, and I'm not sure, maybe they don't hit bloodworms. That is definitely a possibility, but based on the tension, and based on what we just saw there, looks like a decent brook trout. Let's see if we can get that out of there, because it actually, as we're bringing it in, the size of the fish itself looks solid. Not bad. 4-pounder and a silver. I wish we had just like a size 5 regular hook. We don't have one on us, but still the spoon should work for that. We just have to be in the right area if there are golds in here. Pretty cool little spot in here. We have one final brook trout. Again, decent looking, but it's always tough to tell when you have the zoom going on for your bait fishing rigs. Make sure we don't jump the gun and lose that. Really taking his time too, but that's gonna get him. We'll bring him in and then we're gonna go to another pond, but this is definitely a spot to mark on the map and come back to. I like the mix of species here. For this guy though, 4.35 pounder, our best one to this point. And we'll just go ahead and continue moving south. There's a couple more small ponds I want to check that I don't think we've been to yet. And I'll be curious to see what's in those compared to what was in here. So the impression I'm getting is that while there are some of the species we actually want to target in these areas, at least in this particular instance, I'm not sure there's any really big ones. We continue to use that hook size 7, which again would be the hook size to catch like a gold perch. And we get no bites, swap to a size 9, and pretty quickly we bring in probably another like 1 pounder. So I think probably we'll go ahead and move on from here, but I like these spots. Definitely areas to maybe come back to on another day and see if we have better luck. Because I would like to think we could at least get some golds out of here, but from kind of one end of the fish size spectrum to the other, we're going to go and do a little bit of lake trout fishing. We don't do that as much anymore. That was the one thing we primarily did when this game came out. And I really want to catch a diamond one. We've been within 1 pound of diamond multiple times, so we got to give it another try. So ironically, one of the lakes that we left off our last video at is actually really good for lake trout, and I'll often recommend the official theAngler Discord, specifically in legendary videos, but there's so much more information in that Discord than just legendary locations. There are full spreadsheets for every fish species, the recommended lure sizes, all that stuff. And also diamond locations, and this particular lake just on the south side is one of the locations marked for diamond lake trout. So we're going to give this a shot. We have a 2-aught size spinner on right now, which should give us a shot at golds as well. And I'm curious what that fish on our left was. It looked like a kind of big fish, so we may do a little bit of fishing with some smaller stuff for whatever may be up here by the surface. Ooh, is that a... what is that? It's pulling line. I think it's a lake trout actually. Not exactly the rod we want to hook into a lake trout on, but it's just come up out of there really fast after this lure, and luckily, we're still rigged up with 38-pound test, so I think we can just haul him up out of there, but go figure, we're going to hook into our first lake trout with a surface spoon lure, and not the spinner or crankbait we've been using. I do think a crankbait here may work. Man, for a second I thought that was a cutthroat. I think there are cutthroats in here, and if it would have been, obviously that would be a giant, but gonna be probably a silver laker, and he just does not want us to actually get him out of the water. Maybe just there? Still can't quite land him. That's going to work right there. So, ends up being a 20.5 pounder. I mean, not bad. And interesting, we hook that on a size 5 spoon. So, I've gone to, it's actually a size 1 crankbait, which absolutely that guy would have hit if we were in that area. And my reasoning is, if we instead use the rod and not just jump back into the boat, it's really not that deep here, only like 50 feet in most spots. So what I've been doing is just kind of speeding it down about to 25 feet, slowing down the retrieval, and we watch this crankbait dive down basically all the way to the bottom. And in theory, we should be able to basically cover the same amount of area that we do with the spinner without having to wait 10, 15, 20 seconds for it to sink to the bottom. So no such luck yet. I know lake trout will hit crankbaits, and hopefully this is a method that we can kind of save a little time with. But naturally, we catch one off the surface first. Not a bad size rainbow coming up out of there. Interesting thus far, though. We just don't seem to have any luck down at the bottom. And I'm kind of curious, too, if we should try a spoon on the bait casting rod. 8 pounder. So we'll take that. And I guess we could go up a spoon size, too. I'm just not entirely sure what else is in here. I mean, it's so interesting. We just managed to pull lake trout up off the bottom with the spoon lures way better than we can catch anything on the bait casting rod. And I don't think it's the rod. So I think we'll do that. We'll throw like, I don't know, a size 2 spoon or something on the bait caster and see what that does. This to me looks like, I don't know, maybe a 10, 12 pounder. Still giving us trouble to actually land, but we're 55% drag. Not nearly what we had with that 20 pounder earlier. This guy is 12.5 pounds. That's on a size 3 spoon. I mean, is that just what we're doing wrong? Would it Would it make that big a difference? I'd imagine almost any lure that they'd be interested in would hit it, but nothing's worked with this rod. That is so interesting. Maybe we should just be fishing for them on the top then. I mean, the thing that we always did so well with in the past was just catching them, 200 foot down or so. But this seems to kind of suggest the opposite. Every time we fish on the bottom, nothing happens. Got a little something on this spoon lure out here. Can't quite tell what it is, but I actually have been kind of messing with this surface spoon lure approach, as we have a cutthroat on here at a couple of different spots. This is the only other place I can remember catching lake trout from the surface like that. Not a bad fish, 5.5 pound cutthroat. Maybe we'll mess with a slightly bigger spoon if we're going to do this, but I kind of wonder if it's about the depth. I've never had lake trout not hit down low like we're having today, but this spot is about 50 feet deep, which is similar to where we caught the other ones. I'm trying to get to that size 3 and it's just scrolling right past it every single time. That's the one we want to go with. And we'll continue to try this and maybe we can catch some decent cutthroats in the process. And of course, another lake trout comes up out of there and hits our spinning tackle. It's like every single time. It's so interesting though. Like, I'm more confused about lake trout fishing now than I ever have been in this game. And I feel like this is another, pretty nice fish for spinning tackle especially. I imagine we're looking at something like a 20 pounder again. He still can't quite just run with it, but he's not exactly letting us bring him in either. It's kind of got me wanting to try to catch one on a float fishing rig, but I'm guessing they don't hit any kind of live bait. That was on a size 4 spoon. I mean, we just continue to catch them on that. And we've been doing a little bit of lake trout fishing like on stream and stuff. And typically we're using like a 2-aught spinner and things like that. And I don't know that we've caught any decent lake trout while doing so. And I've always just written it off because we've only spent maybe 20 minutes at it, don't get a bite. And I just sort of assume maybe there's no big lake trout spawning there. It's starting to become a trend though that they're hitting this topwater stuff better than anything, and it is in shallower depths and they're not huge lake trout. But it's just kind of confusing me a little bit. We've got, an hour plus, maybe an hour and a half doing stuff like this today, and the only lake trout bites we get are on the surface. This has definitely been an interesting expedition to say the least. We spent all that time at the beginning going after some smaller fish, and definitely found some spots we want to go back to, but we find ourselves at a place that we've spent a decent amount of time in the past, because it does have those panfish and perch that we could potentially target. Just a 0.62 pound bronze there. And again, we could go with a larger hook size, but I think we'll run with this for a little bit and see how we can do. But then there was the lake trout side of this. I have no idea what that was about. Only surface catches the entire time, and we caught, 5 or 6 lake trout, a couple of 20-ish pounders on spinning tackle was cool. Just definitely not what I expected out of that. So potentially, one last catch here. I can't quite tell what that is, but I can see there's a fish under there, so we'll try to bring this guy in, and then I think we'll end up wrapping up this expedition for today. Again, I really want to go back to a couple of those spots. That's actually a decent looking perch. What do we got here? Silver at 1.31 pounds. I think like 1.5 is gold for them. That's so close. I gotta give it one more cast. It might end up being a panfish or something, but because that was close, we'll try one more. And I think that's another perch, but it may end up being a little bit on the smaller side. Taking his time over there, and I did actually try a size 7 hook a little bit to no success, but it's tough to say. The cast location, everything matters so much as to what you might pull out of there. So we may just be looking in the wrong spots today, but yeah, not quite as big, 0.86 pounds for that guy. And I think we'll probably leave it at that. So hopefully, next time we can have a little more luck catching what we're actually after. And still, a lot of interesting stuff. Like I said, those spots I want to go back to. Lake trout, I got no idea. That's going to have to be something we mess with more in the future and try to figure out what we're doing wrong, because obviously it's something. And maybe that'll be for next time, because on that note, that's going to do it for this video. So as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.